Hello Vikings, and welcome back to another wish list video. Figured I would finish off Germany, then I would go off to some of the minor nations for a bit. Those are probably more interesting. German, mediums, and MBT. Starting off with what you see in the background here. In the early 1940s, it very quickly became apparent to the Germans that the short 75mm just wasn't the best suited weapon for anti-armor purposes. So they decided to try and rearm the Panzer IV with a better anti-tank weapon. It would probably be a good event or battle pass vehicle, as it's unique without really bringing anything new. It's just a different combination of stuff we already got. Anywho, it's 5.92 meters long, 2.83 meters wide, and 2.68 meters tall, weighing in at 20 tons. It is really just a bog standard Panzer IV when it comes to the size and the power plant, which is a Maybach HL120 with 265 horsepower and a top speed of 42 kilometers an hour. Where this thing gets different is in the armament. Instead of the 75, this particular prototype is fitted with a 50mm KWK 39 L60. I believe that's basically the same as on the Puma. As well as, well, a coax MG34. Crew of 5, again, standard Panzer IV. Next up, we got something so obscure that finding pictures of it is damn near impossible. We got the VK3001D, and this is the actual hull of it before it got destroyed, but to better illustrate my point, we got the scale model created beforehand. It is one of the signs intended to replace the Panzer III and Panzer IV, which, well, that's what the Panther did. So it's one of the competing designs for the Panther contract, or the Panzer V, really. This particular version is designed by Daimler-Benz, and only one prototype was actually completed, and it did not survive the war at all. That lone hull in the primer is really all that remains after. It was heavily inspired from the T-34s that Germany encountered on the Eastern Front, and would be somewhat unique looking for a German medium. It is 9.02 meters long, 3.28 meters wide, and 2.69 meters tall, weighing in at 35 tons. It's powered by a Maybach HL220, not 220, 210, giving it 650 horsepower and a top speed of 56 kilometers an hour, so slightly nippier than the Panther. But also slightly longer and wider. The armament is a single 75mm Kvak 42 L70, long 75mm, similar to the Panthers, as well as one or two 792mm MG34s, one coax, and potentially one in the hull, but again, doesn't really matter. And once more, we got a crew of 5. Next up, we got the Brazilian MB3 Tamoyos. The 1 and 3 to be exact, the one in the picture here. And I will show a picture of the 3 later on when we get to the armament of that one. It is the first indigenous Brazilian MBT, based off of the M41 Bulldog that Bernardini had already done extensive upgrade work on, so they were quite familiar with it. The chassis of the Tamoyo is essentially just enlarged bulldog with improved armor and a bigger gun. The tank minus gun is 6.5 meters long, 3.2 meters wide, and 2.5 meters tall, weighing in at 30 tons. Powered by a Saab Scania DSI 14, 490 horsepower roughly, and a top speed of 67 kilometers an hour. The armament on the Tamoyo 1 is a 90mm gun made by Bernardini. Rifled is all I really know. They use the same gun on the modifications of the Bulldog. It also has a 7.62mm FN Mag coax and a 12.7mm M2 Browning roof mount. Tamoyo 3 varies a little, mostly in the armament, as well. It has some engine and gearbox changes, but the most important part, the armament is now, instead of the 90mm, a 105mm L7, and it should be carrying the same machine guns, and both versions with a crew of 4. Another Brazilian vehicle, we got the Osorio, another indigenous MBT design, this time by Engeza, who did quite a lot of wheeled vehicles, and some of them were even on my list for light tanks. This particular thing was designed for the export market and funded privately by Engeza, essentially with the intent of providing the Brazilian army with an MBT they didn't have to pay the development cost on. However, no one was particularly interested, and only 2 prototypes were ever built. And there's very little difference on the 2, but we're still going to cover both of them because they are different enough. The chassis is 7.13 meters long, 3.26 meters wide. The height of the first prototype is 2.68 meters, and of the second prototype, 2.89 meters. And weight, again, for the first prototype, 40.9 tons, and for the second prototype, 43.7 tons. Both powered by an MWM TPD 234 engine, 1,100 horsepower, and a top speed of 70 kilometers an hour. The first prototype is armed with a 105mm L7, as well as 2 M2 Brownings, 1 coax and 1 on the roof. The second prototype is armed with a 120mm Giat G1 cannon and the same MGs, and both have a crew of 4. And last up on the list for mediums, we got an Argentinian World War II vehicle. It's heavily it's heavily influenced by the M4 and M3 from the US, and due to a large number of Shermans available post-war for real cheap, only 10 to 16 of these tanks were built. It's called the Nahuel DL43. It is 6.22 meters long, 2.33 meters wide, 2.95 meters tall, and weighs 35 tons. It is powered by an FMA Lorraine Dietrich 12EB engine with 500 horsepower and a top speed of 40 kilometers an hour. Armament is a 75mm Krupp 1909 cannon, so probably not particularly good. Also has a single 7.65mm Allen MG, probably coax, might also just be Messen MGs all over. And supposedly 3 7.65mm Messen MGs in, I don't know where, all over the place. And it has a crew of 5. And that would be it, because Germany is just a rather complete tree, especially for mediums and heavies at least. So yeah, let me know what you think about this list. Let me know if there's anything I've missed. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And hopefully I will see you in the next one.